Welcome back, episode 2 of What's Holding Back My Music Production. Yeah, I recently was having some trouble with Reaper, getting the automation going I was speaking on last time, but I watched the tutorials. Matter of fact, I watched the tutorials on a few things. I know we put off a lot of stuff in music production, especially when it comes to setting up or learning a new tool, and sometimes it seems daunting. There's been plugins I open where I'm like, what? There's been gear I've looked at where I just was lost in the menu. There's been machines I've looked at where it just looked lost, or I was at the beginning stages of working with hardware and it just looked like foreign to me. The first time I looked at a tracker, you know, it looked like an alien made it. So I say that to say a lot of these things seem like music production blocks, but in all reality, a little bit of time, a little bit of effort, a little bit of will, you can get through it. It's not as hard as it looks always. And in my case, at least for two programs, it wasn't that difficult in reality. The first one being, well, three, I guess. I wanted the compact setup, so now I got the computer, the audio interface, the Focusrite, you know. And for new producers, if you're only recording your raps or your vocals and maybe one guitar, because it's got one instrument input and it's got um, a second input for the mic, you'd be all right. I don't know if you need more channels than that. You got to think about it. If you're planning to play multiple instruments or record a band or thinking about, you know, needing more ins and outs. Now, another question I get asked all the time is, do you need an interface to make beats? Kinda. I say not necessarily, because if you're just gonna make your beats inside your DAW and you're not gonna worry about lyrics, you're gonna send them off to people who are gonna record on them or got lyrics for them, then you necessarily don't need the audio interface. Some of these VSTs are made to run kind of in the box themselves, meaning I don't know how much your internal audio drivers are going to affect that. So you can get different drivers that run a little better, but I think, you know, that it's more useful is when you think about trying to add a mic to that setup. Instead of just going mic into your input, your aux or something like that. Like, that ain't gonna work out. I remember I used to think that, or it just ain't gonna be the same quality mic. Um, the Focusrite, and then I recently picked up the dang Keystep MK2. Um, I really like it. It's it's actually I could probably just show y'all. I set this down. It's not that big. For the mic falls over. This is, you know, trying to think. This is my cell phone. You know, this ain't about two and a quarter cell phones, and it's light. It's super light. Um, you got some I/O. I don't know if I can. I got the weird camera. You got some of the I/O right there. You know, and it's got the CV outputs. Mod 2, Mod 1 gate pitch. You got sustain for the pedal. You got the sync in and out. You got the full pin 5 DIN MIDI. USB-C, so that's pretty dope. You know, for I'm trying to get everything to be on USB-C. I'm sure everybody else is the same way, but you know, it's got the on-off switch. I think that's super sick. I don't know why something simple like that. Just being able to set this in front of the computer, switch the switch on, MIDI's hooked up, and powered by the USB, so I don't have to run an extra power, which is huge. And this was really popular when I first started during COVID. A lot of the hardware guys, I was into hardware at the time, and this was on everyone's, you know, every YouTuber's desk had one of these. And I was like, there's a lot of MIDI controllers to this day. And I still feel like that one stood out stood the test of time. I had the regular version. I didn't have, they came out with the 37 later, or the Pro. But the old one was faithful. I mean, you had the sequencer, simple layout, and it just did the job, and it felt built pretty good. This one doesn't feel, obviously it feels lighter and more plastic, but sufficient, I would say. This doesn't feel, it still feels good to me. I haven't tested the mod wheel, but I did, there was an update for it. So if you get this, I know it's pretty new. There's already an update for it. I'm not sure on the whole log for it. I'm not sure on, you know, exactly what they updated, but there's already an update. And it was pretty seamless. Just make sure you get the control center or their software. And it was a little confusing when I went to go download the update. There's an option right away that kind of opens up a folder and asks where the update is. That's if you're manually doing it. But if you click on the other option, it just auto downloads it and automatically updates it for you. Hang on one sec. I'm plugging this computer in. Ugh. It's gonna die on me. That'd have been perfect. So yeah, update was pretty easy and seamless. So that's pretty cool. I know it's pretty new. I just got it, so when it came out, when it was announced, it was like pretty much I was on back order. I think this was in November at some point, early November. So I just got it. But yeah, I've really been loving it. I originally got it for the model cycles and samples because I still love those as hardware, and you know that's kind of what I bring up today. One of the hurdles was hooking up the MIDI with the computer. It wasn't hard to do. I just seemed to work around it a lot of times, and when I was working in the PC, I was used to not always hooking up the keyboard. I had different, I'd use the keys on here, and I think it's made a big difference, you know, being able to have the keyboard again. So I'm glad I got the keyboard, being able to have some MIDI, you know. You could do it without it. Do you need a keyboard? No. I would still say that you could just get the laptop. You know, the interface at that point is optional unless you want to record instruments and vocals. And then the MIDI is a bonus. A MIDI controller is a bonus, but it's not needed. But once you've used one, it's hard to go back away from one. So I got the interface hooked up with the computer. That's been going smooth. That was pretty easy. Hooking up the Focusrite was seamless. If you've ever done that, or if you're worried about doing that, that's a pretty seamless process. And then, you know, got the MIDI controller going. The microphone's obviously going right now. So I got most of my little compact setup. Another hurdle was OBS, because I never really use it on the channel. You know, I put a lot of jams out, and I haven't done too much into the video editing yet. I have some software for video editing, but I haven't dove into it. So OBS was the other one holding back some music production, or I guess channel. But I think this applies because you could be using this to make your videos or your music videos or do your music podcast or anything. It's a pretty popular program. One thing I wanted to learn was how to do the pictures in the pictures like this. And I was able to figure that out. And also what I did earlier was showing the browser. So that's pretty cool. I got some other cams I could hook up. Um, this other cam view is just like the stock laptop one. And then I got an external on the side over here. But I got some other externals, also some PTZ cameras, some point tilt zoom ones that would be cool to incorporate. I figured out in OBS you can actually link up your account. I don't know if you can see this. You can link up your account on the right side there to just automatically sign into your YouTube and stream or whatever. I haven't, you know, I haven't really tried that yet. That's a little nerve-wracking, but we'll see. Maybe I'll drop some lives on there. Um, Hook up some gear, maybe get some gear and do some live jams or something. So yeah, the other one was figuring out the screen capture view because if I ever want to jump in and show some me working inside a Reaper, I could do that. I was doing it before, but like a different screen capture, like just the basic screen capture on your device, or when I used to use iPads and stuff. But this I feel like runs smoother. You can set it all up to how OBS you could set up, what your input mic is. You could set up scenes, transitions, change your input sources and your camera sources and your like your desktop monitor, everything. So, yeah, that was another thing I got. Reaper automation was one I was talking about last time that kind of threw me for a loop, but basically I was writing and reading to the tracks wrong when I was rendering and recording. And sometimes, no, I didn't notice, but when you get the envelopes working correctly in Reaper, you will see the automation lanes running. And if, the automation lanes might be up, but they might not be, they might have glitched or might not be receiving the envelope changes or the MIDI CC correctly or note changes. I'm not really sure. But once I got it, took the time and kind of set it up better. When I was writing the automation, I was making sure I was writing it, having it in write mode in the envelope followers. And then when I was playing back, I was leaving it in write mode and wasn't putting it into read mode to read, the automation back, I'm assuming. Something that I don't really hear a lot of people talk about. I think other programs it just automatically does it, or you just enable automation. Reaper might be a little different. It's highly customizable, but there's also a lot of setup. So when you're setting something up like that, some things are easier than others. Like tracks are easy to set up, but automation lanes seemed not that intuitive. But it's a lot easier in reality than you think. A little disorganized because I don't know how to set up to contain some of the automation lanes. Sometimes the automation lanes open up right away in Reaper, and then it's like it takes up too much screen real estate right away. So I'm trying to. There's got to be a better way to do that. Also, like OBS too and Reaper, I'm bad at this, but setting up templates. You could set up a template for all these cameras, I believe. And you can also do that with Reaper, meaning like when I'm setting up the MIDI, because there's a few things when you hook up the key step, you still have to go into Reaper, and I'm sure every DAW's like this, but there was a few things I had to activate, note changes and what channels you're running on. That's standard, but it was like 2 settings in Reaper, and I was able to Google it, so it's not something too difficult to set up, but if anybody would like to know how to do that. Yeah, once you get that activated, you still have to set up MIDI channels every time you open Reaper, if I connect this to one synth, it's a little bit of setup. If I connect it to two synths, and I'll say I got the MIDI running on four of them, and I took all the time to set that up, you should probably save the template. And you could do that in Reaper. A lot of times I just will forget, but definitely I'm trying to set up templates. So that's one thing I've been working on, to speed up the workflow. These are all workflow enhancements, just trying to save a little bit of time, keeping the inspiration, not lose a beat when it comes time to create. So yeah, that was a few little quick update. I'm not really sure if there's anything else I had on my mind. Not too many. I'm all burnt out on the plugins, so I feel like I got a bunch of them stacked up from the holiday sales, and we'll use them throughout the year and see what's up with them. If anyone. I was I used Notes the other day. That one was pretty interesting. Um, but it was more like a flavor core injector app. It wasn't really too much depth to it, I would say. Meaning, as far as like, I think I want to do an episode on, when you're getting these plugins, a lot of them are like flavor injectors, or, you know, which ones do you need that actually are a tool for something specific and are versatile, and which ones are ones that are probably going to be used on a few tracks but not everything, stuff like that. So sorting out plugins has been a constant struggle to, like, you know there's times where I pull up something I forgot I had, or, well, during that sale there was one I almost bought twice, didn't even know I already had it. I was like, yo. But yeah, so excited for a bunch of these newer plugins I got. Check them out, and just learning Reaper. That's where I'm at right now, and the main plan is to get everything together to make these tracks, put some vocals on them. So hope everybody's doing all right. It's been another episode of What's Holding Back My Music Production, and not a damn thing, because we still here, back with episode 2. See y'all in the next one.